All right, my friends, here we are learning laws of Muktzah, and we are up to Siman 308.25 in the Alter Rebbe. So, no further ado, we're going to get started. So we were talking about Noilad. Let's start from Chavdalet, actually, because that's the beginning of a concept. 24 in the Alter Rebbe. Chen kol hakelim ha'mutar metilchus nishbru b'Shabbos. Ve'in Hashem roim l'shtamish bein me'im malachtam b'rishona le'in malacha acheres le'garmi. K'goyin shivarei v'lchas ben pi chavos. Shivik li schuchas l'chas ben pi apach. V'hin kol tzibazar is a noilad. Shanasik li chodesh ha'mutar b'Shabbos u'da b'yomtiv. Elam ken nishbru me'ev yomtiv shas huchron l'malacha acheres moedim ve'in is a noilad. Yeah, that we did last time. Any keli that is not Muktzah broke on Shabbos in such a way that it's not fit for its original use, but it is fit for another use. That is what we call noilad. Noilad means something born, literally, but it means basically that it has a different use now. And on Shabbos, we are lenient on noilad. On Yom Tov, we are strict. So it's important to know what noilad is, because it's not like one of those things that, there's an opinion in the Gemara that says, okay, that's good if you're learning Gemara, but if you're learning Halacha, it's not so relevant. But here, this is relevant on Yom Tov. So that's why it's... Why is Yom Tov stricter than Shabbos? The reason that Yom Tov is stricter than Shabbos is because some poskim hold that on Yom Tov, in general, the laws of Muktzah are stricter, not just about Noilad, about everything. So because of that opinion, and also there are opinions that even though on Shabbos we're lenient about Muktzah, but Noilad is worse than Muktzah, according to that opinion. So therefore, when it comes to Yom Tov, that some people are strict about all kinds of Muktzah. And if it's Noilad, which some people are even strict about Shabbos, so that combination makes it that we're strict at least with Noilad. Some are even strict with any Muktzah. Any Muktzah, like in the beginning of this Siman, we discussed Muktzah machmas miyu, something that's disgusting. You probably wouldn't use it for something else. Maybe you would. On Shabbos, we're lenient. Some are strict on that on Yom Tov. The same thing applies to Muktzah shehuktzah l'schar. You put something away to sell, which you might use for yourself, but probably not, like gloves. You sell gloves. You don't usually go into your storehouse and take a pair of gloves. You might, but that's not usual. So on Shabbos, we're lenient about that, like we said. On Yom Tov, some opinions are strict. So at least for Noilad, we're strict on Yom Tov because some are strict about every type of Muktzah. Okay, 25. We said this also last time. If the broken pieces are fit for their same type of work that they used to do, for example, a kneading bowl, to put in a thick, how does he translate it? Concentrate, which is like a dough. It's a cooked dish, but it's a thick one, like a dough. So that is similar to a kneading bowl. And therefore, it's not Muktzah because it's a continuation of the same thing. Same thing in glass that you could put liquids into. Such a thing is not Noilad, and therefore you can carry it on Yom Tov as well. 26. If the broken pieces are not fit for any work.
Shabbos, or we put it back together after Shabbos?
No, we're not talking about putting that together at all.
You're just saying the way it is.
If it's fit for use as is. A broken, nowadays we just throw things out. We don't really save broken things. Some people do, but most people just throw broken things out. But in those days, life was tough. You couldn't just go to the store and buy a new bowl. Every bowl was precious and so on and so forth. I was listening to NPR one time about this guy who, was traveling the jungles of, some jungle somewhere. And he finished like a glass bottle or something, and he was going to throw it out. And his tour guide who was with him said, give it to one of these women from the village. She'll treasure it for the rest of her life. And that's what he did. That's what he did. So it's a different world. Yes. So anyway, the bottom line is that we're talking about using it as is. If it still has a use, if the use is the same use, if it's a use, if it's a different use, we're not talking about fixing it. Because fixing it, you can't do it on Shabbos and Yom Tov. That would be making a keli or completing a keli. And as we're going to see in 26, if it's not fit at all now, it's for sure Muktzah. The fact that you could fix it after Shabbos, that doesn't change that now it has no use.
So right now it's the way it broke. It's still usable.
It has to be usable, exactly. On Shabbos, it has to be usable for any use. On Yom Tov, it has to be usable for something similar to the original use. Because Yom Tov, we're more strict on Noilad. So if it changes its use, then it would be Muktzah. But on Shabbos, as long as it has any use. Okay, V'minash Shvarim Royim 26. I think this is actually where we were up to. V'minash Shvarim Royim L'shum Malacha. If the broken pieces are not fit for any work, Harei Muktzah Gomer, they are absolutely Muktzah. Because they have no law of a keli. Vasal Tatlam b'Shabbos, you cannot move them on Shabbos. Bein Shenishbru b'Shabbos, Bein Shenishbru Chol, whether they broke on Shabbos or during the week. Al b'Yom Tov Nishbru B'Yom Yom Mutal Tatlam l'Hasakim Emrim L'Kach. And Yom Tov, if they broke beforehand, you can move them if they are fit for burning. We did learn this actually. Just like any wood you can move for the purpose of burning, the same thing applies to a broken keli. That, for your information, is a machlokes in Hilchos Yom Tov. You are for sure allowed to move wood on Yom Tov, but there's an argument if that makes the wood actually non-muktzah, as if it's just like food or utensil. Or is it that really it's muktzah, because really it's wood, it has no function. But because you're allowed to use it to make a fire, you can move it for making the fire, but not stam, move it for no reason. So that's a separate argument there. But in any case, a broken keli that is not fixable is basically firewood if it's flammable. And then for Yom Tov, you can move it at least for that purpose. Al kelim muktzah machmas son kish nish b'rafa b'sha shvorm ein muktzah machmas son kiss im nish b'shavos b'yom tov was tat lanu b'yom shemiter shuktzah midas adam b'bein hashmoshes k'shay aklim muktzah shalom adayin ukslo chol yom kuluk mishes bar Siman shen yod. Okay, my friends, listen carefully to this tremendous chiddush that the Alter Rebbe says. It's not his own chiddush; it's the chiddush of the Magen Avraham, but it is nevertheless a very interesting chiddush. You have a keli that is muktzah machmas chasaron kis. It's muktzah because it's valuable, and you wouldn't use it normally. Take a phone, for example. I mean, normally you don't play football with it. You don't, it's a phone, it's worth a few $100. So it's muktzah machmas chasaron kis. Let's say it breaks. It literally breaks. Like I don't know, it breaks, it flies open, the glass, everything. And that's it, it's a piece of junk. But it so happens that part of it fits just perfectly on, I don't know, as a cover for some kind of thing you have. You know what I'm saying? This back part of it, let's say, I mean, this is just the case, but let's say this back part of it, it fits exactly to cover a little container you have. Perfect. I mean, it's a different use, obviously, but on Shabbos, it's no problem. A different use is also acceptable, right? Because we don't hold the noilad, so as long as it has a function. Alter Rebbe says no. That is not going to work. For that purpose, it is considered muktzah. Why? Because when Shabbos came in, it was muktzah machmas chasaron kis. It was muktzah as something expensive. And when Shabbos comes in, it gets that status, and it retains the status for the whole Shabbos. Just like, for example, let's say I have something that is muktzah machmas chasaron kis, and I decide that from now on, I don't really care that it's expensive. I'm going to start using it for other things. Doesn't bother me. Whatever. I have so many phones. I'm going to start using this phone to practice playing catch with my kid. I have other phones, big deal. If I would decide that before Shabbos, it would no longer be Muktzah Machmas Asar and Kiss. Because the fact is, it's not, Muktzah means it's set aside. It's not set aside. I've decided that I'm using it for other things. But I cannot decide that on Shabbos. Because when Shabbos came in, it was set aside. It remains in that state the whole Shabbos. You cannot change it.
It was an issue before Shabbos.
It was broke before Shabbos, and it has a function. Okay, Bakasha.
Then you can help it
Yeah.
before Shabbos.
Yeah, it's not expensive anymore. Broken, and it has to have a function. It doesn't have a function, then it's muktzah because it has no function. But if it broke in such a way that it has a function, then it's still then it's not going to be muktzah. We just finished Chav Zayin up to Chav Ches.
You have to declare it, or you just think it. It's just intent.
That's an interesting question.
Tell
You have to
somebody else,
declare
wife,
it.
whatever.
You have to declare it. That's an interesting question. If I answer it, I might get it wrong.
If you have to declare that you're.
One second. If you want to change the use of something, do you have to say it, or is it enough to think it? Before Shabbos. I'm talking about before Shabbos. Before Shabbos,
but you have to say that this phone has no value to me.
I think it's enough to think it. Now, we are going to see later that for some things, it's not enough to think it. And it's not enough to say it either. You have to actually do it. You have to actually start using it. Or at least do something physically with it to show that it has a new use. But in some cases, in some cases it's enough to just think it. I think here it's enough to just think it because it's already a keli. You're not really making it a keli. It's already a keli. The question is, what is the main use? Now you're deciding it has a different use. I think, but I'm not 100% sure.
What's happening is one is in the car, when it's not Muktzah anymore, but to the other household, it's still.
Goes by the owner. The owner can make it Muktzah or not.
Certain things it's used by different people.
If it has many owners, you mean? I mean, the owner is the owner. This phone is mine. My wife can have an opinion about it, but it's mine. If it's a shared thing by the household, I don't know, probably the parents, the mother, the father, I don't know. Yes.
The value is important before, but it breaks and then Shabbos came in. The value is not there anymore.
If it broke before Shabbos came in. Only if it broke before Shabbos came in. That's what Alter was saying. If it broke once Shabbos started, it was Muktzah when Shabbos came in, it's going to stay Muktzah. But if it broke before Shabbos started, it's not valuable anymore. If it has a function, then it's not going to be a Muktzah.
But the value really of the phone is gone, it's lost.
That's why it can be not Muktzah. That's why it's possible for it to be not Muktzah, because it's no longer expensive, and therefore you would use it for other things, but it has to be fit for some kind of use. Broken.
Still, there's no value.
If it breaks in Shabbos, it stays Muktzah, regardless of the fact it has no value, because when Shabbos began, it was Muktzah, it stays Muktzah the whole Shabbos. That's one of the rules of Muktzah. That when something is Muktzah bein hashmashas, then first the beginning of Shabbos, it remains Muktzah for the rest of Shabbos too. There are exceptions to that rule too. Every rule has exceptions, but that's the general rule.
Even it has lost the value completely.
Yeah.
So
Correct.
it's going to be the opposite. If something was Muktzah before Shabbos, or during Shabbos, going to remain Shabbos, whatever happened to it. But can it be something that wasn't Shabbos, and wasn't Muktzah, but then become Muktzah?
That can happen, yes. Right here's a case in point. If a keli breaks and the pieces have no use.
No, it's still a keli.
No, I'm talking about if it broke in a way that it has no use, the pieces have zero use, those pieces are Muktzah. Even though when Shabbos came in, they were not Muktzah, now they've become Muktzah, because now they have no use.
It has to be something that is calculated to be used to become not Muktzah.
Well, something has to change. Something has to change. It has to change that it used to have some thing and now it doesn't. I'll give you another example. Food is not muktzah. Food, edible food. Yeah, edible food. Edible food is not muktzah. Food that is forbidden to eat could be muktzah. Maybe yes, maybe no. If it's expected to feed it to animals, then it's not muktzah because it's animal food. But if it's not something you expect to feed to animals, because it's going to become permissible later, then it is muktzah because it has no use. Or for that matter, if it's basa b'chalav, it's completely muktzah because you can't benefit from it. You can't even give it to your animals. So there's an example. You have a piece of chicken. It's not muktzah when Shabbos came in. And then somehow it mixed with milk, mamish hot, in a way that makes it forbidden. Chicken actually is not asa b'hana, come to think of it. Harkening back to our basa b'chalav days, because it's only the rabbanan. Okay, a piece of meat, hot meat from the grill, whatever, make up the case as you want. You were passing by with your coffee, it fell on it, mamish hot, yatzaletas boy, asar b'hana. At this moment, it also becomes muktzah. Right now, it has no use at all. So, no. But that's the only way.
Give it to an animal?
No. If it's basa b'chalav in a Torah way, then you can't benefit from it at all.
So if it's not your animal, it's just...
It doesn't make a difference. Even not your animal, you get pleasure when you see the animal enjoying it. Oh, chaya. You have to throw it out. Sorry?
Frozen food.
Sorry?
Frozen food.
No.
Frozen chicken, frozen meat.
Officially,
It's not edible.
Officially, meat is edible. Officially, raw meat is edible, even though most people don't eat it. Yeah, but you could defrost it.
Chicken is
You can
Defrost it.
say also on the raw other vegetable is not edible now, but it should be edible if we're going to cook it.
Can't cook on Shabbos. Can't cook on Shabbos.
You're not supposed to be frozen on Shabbos.
Why not? If it's edible, why not? I mean, most people don't eat meat. We're going to discuss later. Most people don't eat raw meat, but some people do. But chicken, I don't think is edible raw. I don't think chicken is edible raw. Chicken would be muktzah if it's raw, whether it's frozen or not. But yeah, that would be different on Yantav, by the way. Raw food that's not edible is not muktzah on Yantav, obviously, because you could cook it. Shabbos it is.
We discussed ice that's being taken Shabbos.
We did discuss it a few months ago.
part one. Okay.
Part 1 of Hilchos Shabbos. It's a machlokes.
And Rav in Yerushalayim.
There was a Rav in Yerushalayim who forbade it. What was his name again? The Doivev Mesharim, I think. David Mesharim?
Or he said to be, we should be gracious to him, but it's fine.
Shabiner, that was his name. Shabiner Rav. Shabiner Rav.
There's an opinion that says it's allowed.
Yeah. Yeah, others disagree with him.
Says also should eat
For sure. I mean, if it's done already, but yeah, but I'm pretty sure you could be making. Because that's whatever machlokes. Sorry?
About, you mentioned about like you really have to verbalize or just think to whether clean before Shabbos. But he says from the Das Adam when you get like the singing, like if you should also the Das Adam, you just get it from raising the Das. It sounds like it's just without verbalize.
Yeah, in many cases, it's you don't have to verbalize it. I'm not 100% sure about this case, but in many cases. Okay.
I think that's impure.
Sorry?
Okay, that's impure.
We don't keep Tumah now. We don't keep Tumah now. What do you mean? Who keeps Tumah now?
Bishul Akum. Clearly Bishul Akum. Moves up into
Dead
it.
animal.
Has what?
Dead animal.
A dead animal is muktzah because it's a dead animal, but the kli is not muktzah. We don't keep tuma now.
Let's say it has the blias of fish line.
You mean because so it has to be kashered? Why bishalakum dafka? Not kosher. What's the difference with bishalakum? If a kli is not kosher, is a non-kosher keli muktzah? Interesting shaila. Interesting shaila.
It's not that if you keep your food in it, or if the Ben Ish Chai brings it, if you put Paris in it. So it's
In a non-kosher keli?
It's a clear, what?
In a non-kosher keli? He's talking about non-kosher keli?
No. I'm saying, why can't you put your food in it?
You're not supposed to keep a non-kosher keli around the house because you might forget and use it.
That's what I thought you were saying.
Anything else? Just feed the animal.
That's not bad.
I have in my head that even though we're Ashkenazim are machmer and they don't toivel new kalim, Sfardim are not machmer on that. They hold that you can. I have in my head that even though we don't toivel it, but we don't go so far as to say that it's muktzah. I have that in my head. I don't know where I got it from. But I did come across something else interesting today. Yeah. I don't think you're supposed to, though. I don't think you're supposed to because you might forget. I don't think you're supposed to use it for any food. I don't think so.
Keep a sticker on it.
I did come across something else that was interesting today. Which is not exactly relevant, but anyway, it's interesting. Let's say you have something that is a basis for tevel. Tevel. In Eretz Yisrael. Tevel is untithed fruits. Untithed fruits are muktzah. And usually a basis, which is something that holds something else, becomes muktzah just like that thing. So I came across that it doesn't have a din of a basis, even though it's holding up a non-muktzah thing. Because
Why is it not muktzah?
a muktzah thing, even though it's holding up a muktzah thing, because it's only asma d'Rabbanan to tithe tevel. And if you do it, it's mutter b'diavad. You can't do it. You're not allowed to do it. But it's only asma d'Rabbanan to do it. Separating is only asma d'Rabbanan. And if you did it, b'diavad, you can eat it. Because you only transgressed a rabbinic transgression. As such, the basis is not a basis, because you don't know for a fact that it's going to stay tevel the whole Shabbos. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Maybe somebody will forget and do it, and it'll be mutter. So that doesn't mean the tevel is not muktzah. The tevel is muktzah. But since it's possible for it to become non-muktzah, exactly, so it's not a basis. So that doesn't really help us. That doesn't help us. It's just
Is there any other
interesting.
example of where that can happen?
What could happen?
Something that can become mutter on Shabbos.
What's
That's
ours? Yeah.
This
So the basis would be something there.
There are things that could become mutter on Shabbos. We were discussing before about the fact that when something is muktzah bein hashmashas, it stays muktzah the whole Shabbos. And I was saying then that there are exceptions to that rule. And the exception to that rule is something that is muktzah machmas iser, but was not huktzah bidei adam. Let me translate that. Something that is forbidden, that is muktzah because it's forbidden, but it was not made forbidden by human intervention. as an example, a live animal. Live animal is muktzah. You can't shecht it. You can't kill it. There's no chayla. Baruch Hashem, everybody's well. So you're not allowed to shecht it. You're not allowed to kill it and feed it to the dogs. But if it dies, you're allowed to feed it to the dogs. And if it is shechted for a person who becomes sick on Shabbos, so you didn't know before Shabbos,
Right.
but he became sick and you shechted it, a person can eat it who's well,
Raw.
raw if it's raw. You can't cook, whatever. We said before, if you cook it for the sick person, then he can't eat it because you might add for him. But if he wants to eat it raw, he can eat it raw. When Shabbos came in, it was Muktzah Machmas Isser, was forbidden to shecht, but you didn't make it forbidden. It was naturally forbidden. So something that's naturally forbidden can change on Shabbos.
The leftover you want to give to the dogs also?
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's a waste of good meat, but if you want to.
let's say you want to feed to your animal, you're allowed to cut your small pieces. And so like
Yeah.
within the dog.
Achat chines an avela lifnei haklavim. Achat chines an avela lifnei haklavim. It's a machloikis, but that's how we pass it. You're allowed to cut a dead animal, even if it died on Shabbos. You're allowed to cut it for the dogs. That's all. So,
That effect, under that principle, there's a possible, as we're probably that what you would consider a basis in that situation could change its status. Like a shechting knife, right?
no. A shechting knife is essentially a muktzah item. Even when you're allowed to shecht with it because it's a sick person, that's overriding the laws and allowing you to shecht. That doesn't mean it's a permissible item. See what I'm saying? Yeah, it doesn't make it non-muktzah. It means for these moments you can use it. You know what I'm saying? It's muktzah, but we're allowing you to use it because it's the guy's sick. You know what I'm saying? Like the moil's knife. The moil's knife is muktzah. After he's finished, it's muktzah. He can keep it in his hand and then find a safe place to put it down. But once he puts it down, can't pick it up.
What do Moyles do on Shabbos then? Do they leave their instruments at the shul? They don't take.
Nowadays, I've seen them using razor blades, which are basically throwaway. But they used to use.
On Shabbos, they don't walk. They don't bring anything with them. They bring their.
No, if there's an Eir, they're allowed to carry it because that's beforehand. Beforehand, you're allowed to move it for the purposes of bris.
So after they're done.
After they're done, that's when it becomes muktzah because there's no mitzvah anymore, and it's muktzah machmas sarn kiss. Again, the old type of knives that they would actually save and use. Sorry, muktzah machmas sarn kiss. So once it's used, you have to put it down in a safe place in the first place, not put it down and pick it up again. Yes. Your volume is very low. Let me just turn you up 1 second, please.
Allowed to clean the priest tonight?
One more time. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Allowed to clean it?
You're allowed to clean the bris milah knife?
Yes.
I don't think so.
So
I don't see why yes. Why should we allow it?
Unless he has another bris.
There's another bris, yeah. There's another bris. But otherwise, why? I don't think so.
All right, what's the difference between the case of the animal and the case of the tevel?
Absolutely none. Absolutely none. The tevel is another example of a thing that is muktzah machmas iser, which can change.
Oh, so they're the same.
Absolutely.
No,
But
The temple is about the basis.
no, so I'm asking, like, what if an animal was on a bus? I mean, it was on something. Or do we simply lose? It's not.
No.
It's not munach
So
on
here's the thing. A muktzah machmas iser is not expected to change. Even if it's Isur B'dei Shamayim, it's not expected. You don't expect an animal to die. You don't expect it to be a sick person. So therefore, the basis of an animal, if when Shabbos came in, the animal was sitting on a stand, and that's where it belongs, because the basis is only if it belongs there, whatever. Chicken had a sitting on its nest on the little ledge. That ledge, I mean, a movable ledge. It's sitting on a box, whatever. That's where you want it to be. That is Muktzah. That basis is for the whole Shabbos, because you don't expect it to be shechted. If it's shechted for a sick person, or if it dies, then it's not going to be Muktzah, but you don't expect that to happen. The chiddush with the tevel is that it's not a basis, because if you do it, it's okay. If you shecht a bird, you can't eat it. That's what they're right.
No, I was trying to say that since there is cases that you'd be able to, so.
Yeah, but that's not expected. That's not expected.
And also, with the
It's
table, it's
expected
been
either
the
for someone
Evan.
doing Issur D'Rabbanan.
With the
I know,
table,
that's
it's
a
been the
chiddush.
Evan.
That's like a chiddush. I'm not sure why. I mean, that's what the Gemara says. I just saw it today. I'm not sure why. I mean, why do we expect a person to do Isur D'Rabbanan? I mean, what's epis? But just going back to that, actually, tevel is an example of a Muktzah Machmas Isser that can change. Tevel, right, untied fruit, naturally is forbidden. It came out of the ground, was forbidden. You didn't make it forbidden. And if it is changed on Shabbos or Yom Tov, it's not Muktzah. It loses that status. So that's another example. But I do want to look up that thing about tefillah. I have in my head that it's not Muktzah. What will happen to Chodesh Ton Tefillah Yesh Osim? Actually, the Mechaber says Yirei Shamayim Yitzis Kulam. Mechaber doesn't recommend it. He recommends you give it to a guy.
Who's the Yirei Shamayim?
Sorry?
Who's the Yirei Shamayim? What does it mean, Yirei Shamayim?
Hopefully, all of us.
Amen. And what's if you're giving advice to somebody?
There is a I don't know what the word is, but there is a saying that Chabad Hasidim say that when it says Yirei Shamayim, we should all try to be Yirei Shamayim. When it says Bal Nefesh, that's for special people. But I don't know where that comes from, but I've heard that said. Yirei Shamayim, I mean, who doesn't want to be Yirei Shamayim? Bal Nefesh is like,
The opposite. Which is someone who wants to not take the mitzvahs. Somebody to Bal Nefesh, just make sure that his nefesh is not going to be tainted.
I understand, but that expression, a Bal Nefesh, is like a higher level than a Yirei Shamayim. That's what I heard.
You're allowed to milk the cow for a sick person. So that milk is knowledge, and knowledge will happen after it is leftover milk with the milk and with the pig.
Milk is noiled. Milk is actually noiled gomer, if I'm not mistaken. Milk is noiled gomer. Milk is worse than regular noiled. Regular noiled is mutter on Shabbos and just also on Yom Tov. I understand. No, but I'm saying the milk itself, even though you're allowed to milk and the sick person is allowed to drink it, but it's noiled gomer and nobody else. For everybody else, it's absolutely muktzah. Because when Shabbos came in, it was blood. And then it became milk. It's a totally different thing. It's not a little bit of a different thing. It's a totally different thing. That level of noiled is for sure muktzah. So, yeah, that's actually muktzah. That's high level muktzah. It's not just for a sick person. We discussed when we were learning about Amir Lanach. I think we discussed that you can have a goy milk the cow as a kablan. You pay him by the job, and you buy it back from him. Not even a kablan. You say you milk it; it's yours. You want to milk it for yourself? Go ahead. And then you buy it from him. You buy it back from him after Shabbos. We had that. We discussed it. Okay, so you watch him. You watch him. You're watching him milk his own milk. There you go. So, I mean, they do this in the Hachshem. I have a friend who's Avadia, actually. He's a mashgiach in one of these big factories, one of these farms. And he watches on Shabbos too. I mean, they're allowed to do it. They're not Jewish. They want their milk to be Chalav Yisrael. They're not Jewish. They're allowed to do it. He's allowed to watch. He's not doing it in Malacha.
They're doing it for us.
They're doing it for themselves. What does that mean? They want to sell it to you. They're not doing it for you. They want to sell it. Non-Jewish company. Yeah.
Oh, that was such a-
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that it's not even, they don't even sell the milk. They want to make cheese out of it, butter. I think that's what
It
it
sells
is.
to a bigger company.
Yeah, I think they want to, it's for like milk products. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, milk. So I'm just saying it's not just in the case of a sick person. So even in such a case where there's no prohibition done in the milking, but the milk is still noiled.
But you can give the milk to a sick Jew. That's okay, even though it's no lad.
If he's
If it's for a chola.
it's for a chodesh yesh b'sakana, certainly.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a proof that it's not Muktzah. Keli.
Can you kill him?
A new keli that hasn't been titled, I have a proof that it's not Muktzah.
Based on that,
The Ramah says in Shin Chav Gimel,
you can use it?
no. Ramah says in Shin Chav, I don't know why. I just have a proof. Maybe because you can use it for other things. The Ramah says, Ve'imu kli sheroi lemales b'mayim, yimalenu mayim and mikvah v'osa le'tvilah. You can't to put it in the mikvah in a way that looks like you're toiveling it for the purpose of tefillah, because that's tikkun kli. But you can do it to draw water from the river. You need water. I mean, you're making it look like you need water, and you're getting some water to drink, and you're putting.
You have to use the water.
Okay, so you use the water. You drink some of the water. Big deal.
No, you're toiling the cleats.
You're toiveling the kli with a
that's the
trick.
whole thing,
You're making it look like you're getting water from the lake.
You can use it. You have to use the water,
I
actually.
mean, why not?
Otherwise, it's just going to be tefillah.
So you drink the water. Big deal. One sip at least. Bracha, whatever.
Wash your hands in the water, isn't it?
Whatever. Oh, to do the tefillah? No bracha, I don't think. Ain't no mavarach. If you make a bracha, then you're ruining the trick. Then everybody
It's
knows.
funny that you're allowed to do something that's mandated by bracha.
Yeah, there's a big beer halacha here.
Also,
It's a big beer halacha
maybe
about
they're
it.
allowing it. Maybe they're not allowing it because it's a sort of kufa. I'm making, but if you're not going to make it in the mikvah, who says you're allowed to move it around? Maybe it's not. Maybe it is not. Over here, I need the kli to go kosher it. If I didn't need the kli to go kosher, who says you're allowed to touch it? I'm just saying.
If it's already Muktzah, if it's mutter to move, let's say gufay, then it's basically not Muktzah, is what you're saying. It's more or less saying it's not Muktzah.
If it's mutter to move,
It's a lot, yeah. It's not like
which one? This we're saying it's you can't use this kli. Oh, you're saying because what status does this kli have? You're saying?
If you can move, let's say gufay, what are you saying? That it's a kli shemalachta le?
Even kli shemalach le iser, kli shemalach.
So is that what it is? A kli shemalachta le iser.
Well, you putting things on it was also. You cooking with a pot is also. That's not also. You just cook with it, it's a problem. What's the difference between that and a pot? I'm just throwing things out there.
I don't know if it's called. I don't know. I don't think that's Pshat in the Rama. I don't think it's a Pshat in the Rama. I mean, the difference between this and a Kli Shemalach L'Isser is that a Kli Shemalach L'Isser has a function, but it's a forbidden function. This Kli, until you actually toivel it, it does not have a function. And then you can't use it for cooking.
Maybe there's there that you can't put things on.
For food. For food, you could use it, to keep your pennies in it. Or not pennies, I mean the stuff. You keep your, maybe that's why it's not Muktzah, actually. Maybe that's why it's not. Anyway. Okay. We go back and we say, 29 of the Alter Rebbe, Chatichas Cheres Shenish B'Mekli, a broken 29. No, we said 28. Oh, 28. Yeah, sorry, 28.
No, we didn't. We just, yeah.
28. Yeah, let's do 28. Kol hashmer masur metit lafilo isen shenem rim l'shum melacha meimunach b'makom sheyicholim lahazik k'goin klei zchocha shenishbro al hashulchan b'makom she'elchen mutar l'tat l'ashram k'dei l'fanoisim shlei zoyko b'hem rabim sheb'makom az aguf shel rabim le'gozol isa muktzah filo isa titl b'charmlas k'mei she'yizbor. We said this last week in the Mechaber. All of the broken pieces that are forbidden to move, even if they're not fit for any work, if they are put in a place where they could do damage, for example, glass that broke on the table or in a place that people walk, you're allowed to move the broken pieces so that people shouldn't get hurt. Because in a case of damage to the body for the rabbim, there was no decree against Muktzah. Even you're even allowed to move it in a Carmelis, which is a half public domain, as will be explained. But the if it's broken pieces of pottery, which are therefore not considered dangerous, unlike glass, you're not allowed to move them, even if they're in a place that people are going to step on them and break them. That's not a problem, because if you break something broken, you're actually not doing any malacha. Unless through that act, you're fashioning it into some kind of keli. If it's not a danger, no. We're talking about it's not a graf shel re'i. It's not on your living room floor. It's in the alleyway, in the Carmelis, or anywhere else that it's not graf shel re'i. The general rule is if it's not dangerous, it's muktzah. That's the general rule. There's an exception in terms of a graf shel re'i, something that's disgusting, it's ruining your peace of mind. That's an exception. The general rule is that it's muktzah.
Since you're dangerous to the public.
Yeah. Oh, does it have to be a public like a minion? I don't think so. I think I read even a few people, like 2 or 3 people, is already for this purpose considered a public, as opposed to one. If it's just you, then you can be careful. But if it's a group, I think even if it's 2 or 3, then we're makel. Where did I see that?
What if it's dangerous to an animal?
No, that's not. That's not going to help. You're not allowed to cause sar balachayim to an animal, but that
What I'm saying is, let's say it breaks, and then you realize the dog can walk by it.
I don't think so. I don't think we have a header for that. I mean, you're not allowed to cause damage to an animal, but I don't think you have to prevent it by moving muktzah. I've never come across that. I don't think so. Okay. Chatichas cheres nishmer mekli ben b'chol ben b'Shabbos v'yurui l'chas b'ei keli mutal tat l'afilu makom shen keli mutzim sham l'chasesim ba. Chavtes, Alter Rebbe. Going to Menachem Pshus Rab. Mutal tat l'shem b'chol b'chol so v'yesh teres kli aleh b'chotzah sheyesh b'ei shem keli. We said this last week in the Machab. You have a piece of broken pottery, whether it broke on Shabbos or during the week, and it has a function. The function is that you can use it to cover a keli. Going back to the olden days when everything was used and reused and recycled and whatever. So, Alter Rebbe says you're allowed to move it even if it's located in a place where it has no function. But the fact is that in another location it has a function, so it's not muktzah. For example, it broke in the public domain. There are no kelim in the public domain to cover it with. Nevertheless, you can move it. Now, why do you want to move it? I mean, what's the point? It's not dangerous or anything. What's the point of moving it? So actually, we did come across this maybe back in 15 maybe. We're learning about, 302. Learning about getting mud off your shoes. There's issues with getting mud off your shoes because when you scrape it on the floor, the ground, on the earth, maybe you're going to fill a hole. When you scrape it on the side of a wall, maybe you're building the wall a little bit. You're adding some nice cement to the top of the wall, maybe. And when you use a sharp knife, maybe you're scraping the leather, smoothing the leather. So one of the ideas of the Gemara is to use a broken piece of pottery. That's one of the ideas. So, but what do you mean a broken piece of pottery? It has no function in the public domain, which is where you are with your muddy boots. No, it's okay. Because the fact is, in a private domain, it has a function. So therefore, even though it's in the public domain, it's not muktzah.
But what would the function be?
To cover a keli.
In a public domain?
In a private domain. Now there's no kelim to cover it, but if it would be in a private domain, you might use it to cover a keli.
Let's say you have a lead.
Yeah.
It shifts a little bit. For this whole piece, I still can use it as a lead, but the extra piece still is going to remain. So, after Shabbos, I can glue it back.
Oh, the piece remains muktzah. The little piece that has no function is muktzah. Yeah. Yeah.
I cannot move it at all, even if it's on my way.
No. It has to have a function now.
So you're saying if it has the piece has a function in a private domain, like you can cover something with it. If it's even in the Rishus Harabim, even though you can't really use it for covering anything, but you could use it for scraping you could use it for something else. You could move it.
Exactly, that's correct.
What makes it
A broken klicheres is usher if it's broken in such a way that the shards are useless.
But if you can cover something, then that's what he says in Chavtes.
Exactly. If it still has a function, it's big enough to cover, then it's not going to be a muktzah.
Dedicated to a function like under the Shabbos, so you know we can move it. Let's say, okay, I cannot use it for the lid right now, but I can use it to hold my napkins from not flying when the wind is open. About it?
I mean, based on the concept of that we don't hold a noilad on Shabbos, so you are allowed to consider it not muktzah if it has a function, even if the function is different than its original function.
This is a general rule.
Yeah. But it's only because it broke on Shabbos. Because when Shabbos came in, it had a Toiras Keli, because it was part of the lid. And now it still has some function, even though it's a different function. we can give it. We can continue. We can give it that continued thing.
How about like,
One second. If it broke before Shabbos, and you didn't designate it to use as a, then it would remain muktzah.
like
I'm pretty sure about that. Pretty sure about that.
how about like a handle off of a lid? There is somewhat of a function, but it's also a little bit aesthetic, I guess.
It has to have a function. If it broke off, it has to have a function as is. The fact that you're going to connect it later doesn't make it not muktzah. It has to have a function as is. לכן הדין בשאר שברי כלים, אלא ששאר כלים יש מן שאין שבירי ראש, שברי מותר מטלת עליהם כלים גדל מקצץ, כאן שברי הריב ולחז בן פי חבס. אבל הריב ולחז חיזו... I'm going to skip the end of Chavtes because it's talking about... You know what, I'll read it just because I'm in the middle of the sif. לכן הדין בשברי שאר כלים, the same thing applies to broken pieces of other כלים. אלא שאר כלים יש מן שאין שבירי ראש, שברי מותר מטלת עליהם כלים גדל מקצץ. There are some types of כלים, if they break, that their pieces are not fit unless they're somewhat big. For example, a broken kneading bowl, people use it to cover a barrel. If it's not big enough for covering a barrel, even though it's big enough to cover a smaller keli, it's not a teres kli. Because the small piece of a broken kneading bowl, it's usual to throw them out. And it's not usual to set them aside for covering a small keli, smaller than a barrel. So you see in your case, Ronnie, it has to be something usual. It has to be something usual. If it's a type of thing that you would usually throw out, well, in that case, actually, I'm just realizing it's something you're planning to fix. You're not planning to throw out. So that would be different. But if it's a case of something that usually you throw out, then it doesn't help to say, okay, I'm going to use it for something. In the case that you're asking, where it's going to be put back and you have a function for it now, I'm not sure, but I think even if it's not a usual function, I think it's still not going to be muktzah. Because it's going to go back to the keli, and it's coming from the keli, and it has something that it's usable now for. I think so. Okay. A broken piece of pottery, even though it's small, it is usual to cover a keli with it. Therefore, it has a teres keli even before you designate it. Okay, Lamed, moving right along. If it broke from a keli during the week and you threw it out before Shabbos came in, also Tatel Shabbos, you cannot move it in Shabbos. Kivachek says, since you decided that you're not going to use it for covering, and you nullified it from having a teres keli. Even if poor people could use it to cover the kelim. That's what I was saying before we go by the owner. The owner is rich. He doesn't use broken pottery for covering kelim. And he's the one who threw it out. The minute he throws it out for Shabbos, you understand? Because on Shabbos it's not going to become muktzah as long as it has some kind of function, even though he decided to throw it out. But if it's thrown out before Shabbos, so he already was mevatlet from teres keli, and it's muktzah for everybody, even for poor people who would want to use it for themselves. And if they get their hands on it before Shabbos, that's fine. But they can't start on Shabbos and decide, no, we want to use this, because it's already been declared useless by the owner. So he says now clearly, if you threw it out on Shabbos with tatla, you can move it. Shabbos, because it has a teres kli in the beginning of Shabbos, which is Benesh Moshes. Okay, Lamed Beis is a very important rule, but let me see if we have to go further in the Mechaber before we say it. Did we do Zion in the Mechaber yet? Anybody remember? Daniel, do you remember? Did we do Zion in the Mechaber?
I'm checking right now. Yeah.
We did
Yes,
it?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so let's continue the Alter Rebbe. Lo b'chol davar amru.
That's what we got up to. That was the last one we did in the Mechaber.
Okay, perfect. Lo b'chol davar amru shem roi lechasas b'kli yesh teres kli alav ela b'shivei kelim milvad. However, v'hoya kvar aleim teres kli gamak sheyesh leim. Lachel lenifka memar av kishish b'mer adayin l'chisui. Not by everything do we say that because you could use it to cover a keli, it has a teres keli. It's a special thing by a broken keli because it had a teres kli on it when it was whole. So therefore, just because it broke, we don't remove that status. A thing that has no shaychus of a kli at all. Very important. For example, stones, pebbles, and similar things. Even though they are fit to cover kelim with, that does not give them a teres kli. You're not allowed to move them even for their space or their function, as we explained before. We have to warn the public that are nichshal, they are, how does he translate it? Who err. They err and they take a little piece of wood, a shtickle, whatever, something, and they put it under something else to sleep on it. They want to sleep on something, but it's rocking a little bit. So they put something, I mean, we have it with tables. You have your table is rocking a little bit. So you want to put something underneath it. You cannot take a little branch or something like that. So that's muktzah. That's not a keli. It's not a keli, it's muktzah. In order for it not to be muktzah, it has to have a function. You have to designate it for a function. An undesignated piece of wood is muktzah. Yeah.
Everything that's allowed, you can put on.
Yeah. Yeah. A napkin for sure. A piece of paper we had at Machloikas, if it's muktzah machmasar and kiss or not. A unused paper. A used paper for sure. A used paper for sure. An unused paper is a Machloikas we had. Meiser Rav, I see in the kids programs, they use them. That's not a Meiser Rav. I've seen in shul. I don't know, they give them out when they're doing programs. Tokens for tickets, prizes. That's what I've seen. But that's not a proof. I don't know. Interesting shaila. It's an interesting shaila.
You're allowed to play poker on Shabbat. That's the same question.
I mean, not for money.
No, for fun.
For fun. Why not? Why not? I've never played poker in my life, so I don't even know how it works. But if it doesn't involve money, why not?
It's not like pigeon racing.
So what's the
calculations?
now, what makes a board game muktzah?
I mean, if it's a type of game that you would normally write when you do, so that could be muktzah because it's the kriya you might write. If it's a game that involves money, maybe it's umdin dechoil. I don't know if that would be muktzah, but it would be not appropriate. I don't know if poker is appropriate for Shabbos. You know what I'm saying? Maybe not appropriate during the week either. I don't know. But
Saying board games are okay?
Guys.
If they don't involve writing or money, why not?
So what's the difference between a board game and poker?
Because poker usually involves poker. Money. Doesn't it usually involve money?
Absolutely. That's
Why would anyone play poker for that?
Why does anyone want to play board game? For bragging rights.
Poker,
Like, you in a board game. skill game just as much as any other. I'm not trying to say you should play poker. All I'm trying to say is why is it?
Poker doesn't usually involve money when you play it. It usually involves chips that can be. Sometimes people will play with chips in lieu of money, and there'll never be any money exchanging hands. But you don't usually play it with actual cash. That's sort of the sort of thing you get in Western movies from 40 years ago.
I see. Okay. He says they don't usually use cash. Okay, okay. Listen,
Use cash what?
for poker,
What do you use?
They use the
chips.
And what are the
Which
chips
are-
equal?
And then
Equal
they cash
money.
in the chips eventually, like in a casino. You're playing in home.
Put money on the table, put it on the side, and you get your person pays $10, and the person then wins the money.
Let me ask you,
What did he say? You play for what?
Chips.
Even poker chips. That's
Poker
what
chips.
That's if you're playing for the money. You're playing
No,
for money.
you are
play
playing
for
for
money.
money with poker chips. You're cashing the bank for money.
Sometimes
You
you
just so you don't have all that money that's sitting there.
Although I remember
So we should-
the rabbi of Adas in Melbourne wouldn't let his son play with stamps on Shabbos, and the reason that he gave was you might run off and sell them or something like that. It was a very odd, but I took it as given at the time. We were about 10 years old at the time.
Postage. What do you mean by stamps?
Postage stamps. We had stamp collections, and he wasn't allowed to go through it because he might go and convert it for money,
Baseball cards.
Why is that a Muktzah?
or find out that it's valuable and therefore he shouldn't play with it.
Already been used. The stamp collections are usually stamps that you can't actually send, right?
Correct.
Maybe the Muktzah must chasar and kiss. That's
Well,
my Muktzah must chasar and kiss.
as I've gotten older, I've queried whether everybody would consider it muktzah.
Why not? What permissible function does it have? Tell me what permissible function it has.
Well, you go through it and you get pleasure from seeing all. As kids, we'd go through and say, "Hey, wow, that's so cool! You've got that one, and I've got this one."
Oh, so you're saying basically the function of collecting it is not a forbidden function, is what you're saying.
That's what we thought. But then he said the reason that you shouldn't play with them is because you might discover you have a valuable one and go and sell it. Which, to be frank, a 10-year-old is not likely to do. But we took that as yes, of course.
Interesting. I'm not sure.
Same old baseball.
Well, take it one step further. What if you have a coin collection? Would that be the same?
Coin collection, money that is legal tender is absolutely muktzah.
But
Old
stamps
Roman coins.
but stamps are legal tender.
Not if they've been used already.
That's true. I guess coin doesn't lose that. Well, if it's been circulated,
I don't know what it's from. Money is something that is considered muktzah gomer. It is considered to not even be a keli. It's not considered like a utensil that has a forbidden use. It's rather considered like being absolute muktzah. Because even you don't really use it. When you use the money, it's not the money, it's what the money represents. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I think a stamp which has not been canceled actually is like real money.
Right.
If it's canceled, then yeah, it can't be used again.
Right.
But even if it weren't cancelled, if it's sitting in an album, then it's clearly a thing that you're collecting and having
Yeah, but a
and
coin could be
looking at.
But a coin could be sitting in an album too, for that matter.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
A lot lighter of these two.
One second, before we get onto that, I just want to clarify the question. I'm going to answer the question, I'm just clarifying the question. If you consider looking at something in the context of a collection as a permissible use, so then you have the next question of taking something that is muktzah, like a coin or like a stamp that is not yet stamped, and saying, okay, now I'm making this part of my collection. So until now, it used to be muktzah, because money is considered to have no function. It was muktzah. Now I'm making it part of my collection, and I want it to be just for my pleasure and enjoyment to look at.
Like photographs.
I want to nullify it from being money and make it into my collection. Fall doesn't like it.
Worth money.
Like you'll find someone has $1 from the Rebbe, they've laminated it, put a picture of the Rebbe in with it, and hung it up.
That's another question. Yes, he's asking. If you take a dollar that you got from the Rebbe and you put it in a frame, and for me, this is not legal tender. This is my dollar. I'm treasuring it forever. But it's different because it has no function. It's not something that you just leave it there. That's not a function.
We had this discussion about photographs.
That's the one.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a machlekes of the achronim. That's a machlekes of the achronim. Or if pictures are considered malach leheter, because you use them for the pleasure of looking at them, or is it malach lisa because they have really no function? Look at them. Yeah, not malach lisa. Yeah, then maybe it's muktzah machmas gufay. It has no function.
Like a
You look at it, but you don't use it for anything.
Like a rock.
Something like that. Yeah, that's a machlekes achronim.
Value so stamps.
Yeah, well, that's part of the question. See, if it's considered to have a permissible function, then the fact that it's valuable doesn't make it muktzah. This is a rule, by the way. For something to be muktzah as a chasar and kiss, it has to also have a forbidden function. A, it's a forbidden function. B, it's valuable, so you wouldn't use it for anything other than the forbidden function. So you're left with a muktzah item. If it's a permissible use item, and it happens to be expensive, then it's not going to be muktzah because its use is a permissible use. Just because it's expensive, why should it be muktzah? I mean, talk about a Sefer Torah. Sefer Torah is very expensive, but it's a permissible use item. You wouldn't use it for anything other than reading from the Sefer Torah, but it's a permissible function. It's not muktzah. I mean, what we've been discussing, a cell phone. Forbidden function, and it's expensive, so you're not going to use it for other things other than the forbidden function. So you're left with no use for it on Shabbos. That's why it's muktzah. So I'm not really answering these questions. I'm just passing the buck. Stamp collections, coin collections, pictures. Pictures of machlekes achronim. I think most are making bad pictures.
Your question is
What's the psak on the pictures?
1 second.
looking at for pleasure, and I took away the value of some sort of.
No, you didn't take it away. You designated it. It has value, but I've designated it for my pleasure. I'll give you another example. I take a dollar bill. Even better, I take a $5 bill. I say, listen, I like Abe Lincoln, and I want him to be my bookmark. From now on, this is my bookmark.
I've said that.
So why can't I do that for a coin collection? What's the difference?
They're using it here.
I mean, if you consider collecting as a use, why can't you do the same thing?
Because you're not going to sell it.
We have another.
Your intention is not to sell it. Or even if you sell it to somebody else to collect. You're not going to give it to the bank for money. It's going to be used, even if you sell it, it's to somebody else who will treasure it. Sorry.
Designated as a bookmark even if you have an actual.
You can have two bookmarks. Some people have many bookmarks in the same book, so they go back and forth. Okay.
Like gold jewelry, because also that's
Gold jewelry is an example of chasar and kiss that's not muktzah, because it has a permissible function. Actually, speaking of jewelry, I came across something here in the Deer Shoe that he says things like jewelry and clothes are considered like food, and they're not muktzah at all. Even you're even allowed to move it for no use at all, for no reason at all. We said last week that based on the decree the Chachamim made and whatever, even a permissible use item, you're not allowed to move for no reason whatsoever. Because it was a decree, and even though they permitted it, they only permitted it for some function. But if no function at all, you're not allowed to. But we said food was not included in that decree. And he brings achronim that say that clothes and jewelry, basically things we need, essential things for Shabbos, that was not included in the decree ever. Therefore, you can move. Sorry. It's farm, yeah.
Like mineral stones. Some that they have like big purified water, for example. You put like in a cup of water. That's something helps. Have like different. It's like,
What does it do?
there's many different like minerals that have different properties.
So it adds those properties to the water?
That's just one. There's other type of and people use them for like medicine as well. It's like herbs.
So it basically is adding minerals to your water.
Yeah, some like that.
I don't see why not.
Yeah.
I don't see why not. I mean, it's like food. You can't eat it itself, but you use it to add something edible to your food, to your drinks.
Or some people just not for drinks, just to just by itself, without eating a drink, no connection.
What do they do with it?
Has a different property, like healing properties.
So where do they put it?
They just maybe they hold it. They just hold it.
I'm not sure about that. I had a guest once who had magnets. She explained to us how she wears the magnets on different parts of her body, and they cure her of all her ailments. And I never saw her again in my life, but maybe it actually works. Who knows? So yeah, I mean, maybe. Trying to think of something else similar to that. Actually, you know what? In Siman Shin Chaf Ches, we have something similar to that. In Siman Shin Chaf Ches, which is the Siman about healing, it talks about a stone that pregnant women used to carry so that they shouldn't miscarry. Even Tekuma, it was called. Ruby? So, yeah. I mean, it's similar to this. There was no function to it per se. You didn't do anything with it. You just carried it, and that was the belief. Yeah. So there it talks about in terms of healing, but it doesn't seem like it's muktzah. I don't think muktzah is brought up as an issue there. I don't think so. Okay. Yep. Yep. I mean, if the kid has reached the age of chinuch, you should stop him. A young kid, if a kid plays with it, he plays with it, as long as he doesn't throw it. Muktzah gomer. Muktzah gomer. Can you move muktzah gomer if it's a graf shel re'i? Yeah. I mean, if it's disturbing your peace on Shabbos, You can move it out of the way.
Distributing pieces of Russia.
Yeah, it's ruining your environment. It's making it dirty, making it. Yeah. If it bothers you, if it disturbs you, yeah. I don't know the exact language that's used, but we'll get to it. It doesn't have to be something smelly specifically like re. It could be other things like we learn about trash, like bones from your meal, peels, shells of nut. That's all could be graf shalri. It doesn't smell, but it bothers you that you have such a mess on your table. So, yeah. We continue and we say. You're allowed to move anything muktzah with a goy, other than for the muktzah itself. Shomim? Very important point. You're allowed to ask a goy to move any muktzah whatsoever. Why? So what? The Rabbanan, you still need a heter. Shvus to shvus is only mutter for a mitzvah, for a need. You're allowed to ask a goy to move any muktzah whatsoever, except to move the muktzah to protect the muktzah itself.
That's what they do with the Mishnah Bris. Sure. Like the
Right.
usually has like a guy to
That they can do.
Because you can do it yourself almost.
How? Exactly. Thank you very much. The principle is anything you can do in a permissible way, you can ask a goy to do. So because you're allowed to move muktzah kal achayad, you can ask a goy to move muktzah. Whether he does kal achayad or not is not your problem.
What's this last piece here? As long as it's not for the need of the muktzah itself, what does that mean?
Unless it's to protect the muktzah itself. If the muktzah is in a place where it's going to get stolen or get ruined, then you cannot ask a goy to move.
So what do you do in a situation like that?
If it's a great financial loss, then you could ask the goy to move it anyway, because it's a shvus to shvus.
Okay.
Or for a great financial loss, you could have a goy do a shvus. If it's not a great financial loss, there is a heter I have for you. You ready? The heter I have for you is to actually move it kal achayad. Actually move it kal achayad. You can't ask the goy to move it in the regular way, but you can actually move it kal achayad. Or you can ask the goy to actually move it kal achayad.
Pick something up. Yes.
This is the achayad, exactly. This is the achayad. For example, your teeth would be another example. Your elbow. Anyways.
We actually had this situation in Yeshiva Gedola in Melbourne.
One second. I just want to answer. Left hand is not kal achayad, not for muktzah, and not for any melacha other than writing. We had that in the past. I don't know if that's kal achayad. I don't think so. I didn't see that is. I don't think so. I'm sorry, Yossi, go ahead. And Shiva Gedola in Melbourne, go ahead. Yossi, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. A bicycle had been left outside, and I remember a suggestion was made that if somebody locked the door, that they had to go in through the window that was where the bicycle was, they could move the bicycle in order to get through to their room. And then I recall Shmaya Wax actually looked up something in Ben Ish Chai that said something about moving something that you're afraid is going to get lost. I don't. This is going back quite a while, and I don't remember exactly what the conclusion was. But he was saying that when he looked it up, it was like you said. If it was moved with the back of the hand or with a considerable shinoi, that would be okay.
Farrell is saying that the Ben Ish Chai allows bicycle riding anyway, so that wouldn't be an issue. But even if you hold bicycle riding as aser, which
the Ben Ish Chai holds that bicycle riding is okay.
That's what he says. I never saw it. You saw it?
I heard about this.
So I was remembering that the Ben Ish, that he said, according to the Ben Ish Chai, it was less of a problem. Okay.
I have seen people riding bicycles, Sephardim riding bicycles. I never knew where it was from, but that's interesting.
Usually.
No, but I'm saying it's obviously something they've heard from somebody. They don't know the Ben Ish Chai, but I don't see Ashkenazim doing it. But I have seen Sephardim doing it, so maybe it's somebody they heard from somebody that said that. But the point is,
are you saying it's not actually in the Ben Ish Chai? Because I remember Shmaya actually looked something up.
The problem is his Tshuva Sefer. But the point is that, but if it's in the way anyway, it's not worse than the Klisha Malachta L'Isser. So if it's in the
wasn't
way,
in the way. He was saying that someone was saying we could engineer it so that it was in the way if we locked the door, so one would have to go through the window.
That works. We did have that. You could make something be in the way. We did come across that. You could make something be in the way and then move it. But I just want to answer one question at a time because Joseph has a question here, Ronnie has a question, and then Yoram, I'll get to you. Joseph is asking, why is left-handed kalachar yad for chol hamoed in terms of writing? In terms of writing, the left hand is a shinui because it's hard to write with the left hand. But for other things, generally left hand is not a shinui. Yes, Ronnie. I don't know. I didn't see if that's kalachar yad or not. I'm not sure. I don't know. Yoram, go ahead.
I think about the bicycle. If it's a three wheel, I think is another okay. I think about the bicycle.
Lo shamati. I don't think there's a difference between 2 and 3 wheels. If it's aser, it's aser with 2 or 3 wheels. If it's mutter with 2 or 3 wheels. I don't think there's a difference. Okay. The problem with the bicycle is twofold. First of all, if it breaks, you might fix it. And second of all, anything that travels quickly, you might end up going outside of the tchum. That's another thing that Shmer Shabbos brings down. So I don't think there's a difference between how many wheels.
I heard one that also breaks. No, I heard the fixing thing. There you go. That part. It breaks. You wouldn't move it. You'd have to crack on the
Uh-huh. Why is that not a Xer? What's the difference?
There you're much care.
There's also as far that's Udin Dechel. That any fast moving vehicle is Udin Dechel. I saw that somewhere. Maybe also the Shmer Shabbos. I don't remember.
You sure there are ones? But I asked some Rob what was the kind of
yeah. I think you should have one. The deer should also burns. Yeah.
I was just reading something here about the Ben Ish Chai that people were doing that, probably just issued it for Baghdad. It's not that we should follow it necessarily nowadays or.
I didn't see it, but it could be.
Yeah, there's some sort of website called dailyhalacha.com.
I see. Interesting. Okay. Right. Right.
And he actually comes to the shul on Shabbos. This Shabbos he didn't use it was where we lived, the air was bad. So, and I asked him once, how can you use it? He said, it's not a problem. It's in the Arab. There's nothing really. I have a feeling if anything would go wrong, he'd just leave it. Because there's not much that go wrong.
In my neighborhood, using scooters is considered heter gomer, and everybody uses them, from little kids to 70-year-olds. I've seen 70-year-old people scooting down the street. It's like the strangest thing. But I don't allow my children to do it. Anybody who asks me, I don't allow them.
Actually, out here,
because the reasons for bicycles, two of the reasons apply. The braking doesn't really apply. There's no chain, there's no tires usually. But in terms of going out of the trom with a fast-moving vehicle, and the whole idea of fast-moving things being, not so Shabbosdik also applies. I think I saw in the Shemir Shabbos. I'm not 100% sure.
Actually, here in Los Angeles,
others, but somebody was mechadish. Bicycles didn't exist. Yeah, wagon, horse. I mean, and any fast-moving transportation, or even nowadays cars, the moving fast is usually associated with malacha. Horses, wagons, whatever. No, I'm not talking about jogging. Jogging is not fast. I'm not talking fast.
Using thumb.
Exactly.
Rollerblades, the same kind of.
Right. When I asked Rabbi Heller from Crown Heights about, he said, if anybody asks you, you say it's asr and you don't give them a reason. I think I mentioned this before. Because he said, once you give a reason, they'll say, yeah, but, who said, he said, that's it. Asr. Yeah.
So somebody asked me that this Shabbos here in Los Angeles. So I said, when I read the instructions for using the Erev that the Erev puts out, they say the Erev is not doesn't authorize people to use skateboards and scooters on Shabbos.
Interesting.
In the Erev, it's not for that. Yeah, you can look it online.
That is very interesting. No, they don't want. Usually, when people put up an Erev, they give you guidelines for what it's not good for. Saying they tell you not to mail on Shabbos. They tell you not to take a umbrella on Shabbos. These have nothing to do with an Erev, but they're reminding you that there are other things you can't do on Shabbos, and just because you have an Erev doesn't make it okay. Usually, the ones putting up the Erev, I've seen when an Erev goes up, they give you guidelines. I've seen them saying, don't mail things, don't use an umbrella. You know what I'm saying?
I haven't seen anything. For sponsorship.
I'm saying because this is an Erev that's been up for years and years, but I've been in places, Melbourne, when I was there, they put up an Erev in my time, where I think it was down for a few months, and they put it back up, whatever. So when it started, they gave a list of things that you're supposed to follow, whatever. Anyway.
Can you say the same svara with pools?
What do you mean?
The repeller say no and don't give them reasons. Because once I started giving someone reasons, and pretty much there's no, at the end of the day, with his pool in his backyard, with his whatever bathing suit, to go in with his daughter, there was really nothing to hold on to.
All right.
So he took it as if he didn't take it so easy.
All right.
It's almost the same svara, no?
Could be.
Can you use it for a mikvah?
Could be. Yeah, for mikvah, yeah. Why not? Just like.
It's not ruach. What's the final thing? It's not the spirit of Shabbos. It's not Shabbos thing.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Why?
Okay, I'm going to go on with the Mechaber and Ches. Kol HaKelim. Shenitolim b'Shabbos, Talsasein shenisparkum ben nitolim ben shenisparkum b'chol ben nisparkum b'Shabbos. Any kelim that can be moved on Shabbos, if their doors came off, you are allowed to move them, whether the doors came off during the week or on Shabbos. Mechaber in Ches.
Oh, okay. Could you start again? I was in the wrong book. I'm sorry.
Mechaber in Ches. All non-Muktzah kelim, their doors that came off of them, nitam can be moved, Bein Isparku B'chol, Bein Isparku B'Shabbos, whether they came off during the week or on Shabbos. Exactly. No, the keli for sure. The keli is not a chiddush because the keli is still functioning with or without the door. The chiddush is even the door which came off of it, which you might think has no function. Okay, it because we'll see in the altar because it's going to be put back, so it's still considered to have some function. Let's see. Delas, let's go on. Delas shall shidoteva umigdal yechol nitla behem vasul achzira. We're actually going to skip Tess. Tess has to do with Boina B'Shabbos, and we learned it way back when in 3:13. And it's not really a Muktzah issue per se. Going on to Yud. Kisui bor v'dus. If it's a cover over a pit in the ground, so then you can only move it if it has a handle which makes it into a keli. V'shal kelim, if it is a cover of a keli, even if they're connected with cement to the ground, the covers are not muktzah. Even if they have no handle. As long as you did something to turn them into a cover or use them at least once. Okay, let us go back to
what in the beginning it says kisoy dor v'dos. What's a dos?
A bor is a well, and a dos. How do you translate dos?
Someone go to safari.com. Safari?
It's also some kind of, I have it here, cistern. All right? Yeah, a water pit that's connected to the ground, basically. Okay. We're going to do the Alter Rebbe Lamed Gimel.
So the whole thing, but the last thing, as long as there's a handle over the whole cover with a handle on it, you can move that cover. That's basically it?
Correct.
Okay.
If it's attached to the ground, in order for basically the issue is as follows. A keli is not muktzah because it can be moved as a function. Anything attached to the ground, even though it's not muktzah per se, because it's attached to the ground, you don't move it, but it's also not non-muktzah. In other words, you never move it. So a cover of a keli is automatically not muktzah because it's part of the keli. As long as it was used once, or it was fashioned to be the cover, it becomes like part of the keli. But something that covers something that's part of the ground, like a cistern or
it's essentially a floorboard.
So exactly. So it's part of the ground. And as such, it doesn't have the status of the keli, unless it has a handle. If it has a handle, so then it becomes like a functioning keli.
What if it has hinges? Would that be sufficient?
No, on the contrary. Hinges are what connects it to the ground.
But hinges are designed to open. So there's a different... If it were just a large plank of wood, a large, 2 meter by 2 meter plank of wood, I'd say, yeah, it's like a floorboard. But as soon as you put hinges on it, hinges are designed to be opened.
Yes, but they're open as something that's connected to what they're opening. And in this case, they're connected to something that's connected to the ground. So
what does a handle do?
It doesn't make it more muktzah, but it doesn't make it less muktzah. See what I'm saying?
What does a handle achieve?
Well, the handle is if it does not have hinges. So it's not actually connected to the ground. Once it has a handle, then it's considered to be a functioning item. Understand?
I would have thought hinges would achieve the same thing, because once you put a handle on, you're saying this is a thing designed to be moved.
Exactly, and it's not connected to the ground, and it's a thing designed to be moved. So it's a utensil. But having hinges which are connected to the ground, and the ground does not have a status of something that can be moved, that doesn't help it at all. On the contrary, if it has hinges, even with the handle, it's muktzah.
But what's this part here where it says if it's...
One second. I want to clarify.
Hang on. Does that mean that a door to a storm cellar or something is muktzah because it's connected to the ground?
Why are you talking about a door to a storm cellar? A door to your front door or between your house is muktzah. I mean, you can open and close it, but if it comes off, it's muktzah.
Oh, right. Sorry, I understand. Sorry, I had that. Okay, I thought we were talking about taking. Okay,
no,
right.
I'm not
So
opening and closing the door. You can open and close the door. I'm saying it has no status as a keli. Is what I'm saying.
Right. Okay, got it. So if the door comes off, it's muktzah.
Exactly. Yes, I mean,
yeah. So it says later on. It says v'shel kelim afilu hey mechubarim betit. You can carry them. What does that part mean? Even if it doesn't have a handle, what's the difference between?
If keli was connected to the ground through cement, it's still considered a keli, and as such, the cover of it is considered a keli, and it's not muktzah.
What was that? What would that look like if it's attached to the ground with tit?
I don't know. I mean, let's say you have a cupboard, which you didn't want it to fall over, so you anchored it. You know what I'm saying?
You wanted it
with some cement, but it's a cupboard.
Okay, but who shetikan osei behem maisa? What's could reach
for a cover of a keli to be considered a keli? It has to either have been used as the cover before Shabbos, or it has to be made for it. You know what I'm saying? Like size or sanded down, some kind of action to make it into that cover.
And then the last part, the kisui chaviut hakovros, the karko lagamri tsariking base achiza. So I guess that's like for some sort of a kever graveyard.
Kisi. I think that's something else.
Oh.
I think something else. Give me a second, please. Yeah, here's what it is. Yeah, no, it's not something else. It's a continuation. If it's completely buried in the ground, then it has the same halacha as part of the ground. So if the barrels are completely buried in the ground, I don't know why they would bury barrels in the ground, but if they would bury them completely in the ground, then their covers need to have a handle in order for them not to be muktzah. Normally, kelim that are connected to the ground are still considered a keli, and their handles and their covers don't need a handle to be considered a keli. But if it's literally buried in the ground, then the covers need a handle to be considered a keli.
I didn't understand the other part though. How when it's connected with tit, how did they do that? Did they just weight it down or something like that? Or
They actually connected with cement.
They connected with the cement. They made some sort of hinge with the cement. Or?
Not a hinge. Let's talk about a cupboard, right? Or even a stove. I mean, stoves are anyway muktzah because you can't use them. But I'm saying a stove, you might, or even nowadays a bookcase. It's not unusual to actually screw it into the wall.
Right.
The kid doesn't climb up on it, and it could chas v'shalom come down on it.
Yeah.
So it's like a safety precaution. So he's saying something like that. I mean, let's say you connect it with cement instead of with screws. You connect it with cement, but it is a keli.
But how do you open it then if it's connected with cement?
No, just on the bottom. You open it on the side or on the top or whatever.
Oh, I see. In other words, we're just using it to fasten it to the ground. It's not that this is not the door that you're, because I thought this was talking about
No.
the lid that you're taking off the top.
No. Not the door, not the lid. The bottom of it. It's connected by the bottom of it.
But when you say kisui bor vados, isn't that talking about the top in the beginning of this?
The kisu bor vados is a cover to a pit or a cistern. So that's an actual, that's not a keli that's connected to the ground. That's an actual part of the ground. The cistern is literally a hole in the ground. And it's
I see. So I was just reading, I wasn't reading right. The kelim afilu he mekhubarim betit. You know, even though it's the keli is attached to the ground,
not the cover. The keli is attached.
You can still carry that keli.
You can still, no, the keli is attached to the ground. How are you going to carry the keli? You can carry the cover of the keli. The cover of the keli still has the din of a keli, even though the keli is attached to the ground.
And it doesn't have a handle.
And it doesn't have a handle. And when it would be, if it would be the actual ground, a thing without a handle is muktzah. But because this is a keli, so the cover has the din of a keli.
But the whole kicker is attached to the ground. If it wasn't attached to the ground with tit, then you couldn't do it.
No. If it wasn't attached to the ground with tit, then there would be no question that it's not muktzah, because it's a regular keli. And the covers of kelim are not muktzah, even without a handle. Because now that it's attached, you might think it has the din of a borvados, of a pit and a cistern, and that maybe without a handle, the cover is muktzah. So he says, no, it's not like that. It's like a keli.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Sure.
Does it have the water meter where the main valve has a cover? We need to have access to this valve to talk about isn't.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, you can't move it. Close the water. I don't think so. I think that's muktzah. What happened? I think it's muktzah.
You might have something you hold it.
Right.
If this hold considered that it is up, there has to be something that actually, like you put a handle on that hold. The handle you can move it.
With the handle, you could move it, yeah.
No, it's not from the city. It's not handle. Something metal, sometimes from cement, sometimes plastic. Covering the backyard. Usually just the heater is open over there and the valve.
וכן מכסה של מוקם יציאס המים, או של מוקם הביוב, דס הגן קרלס שעשה ליטלוי, אלא אם כן יש לה ביס אחיזה. That's the simple halacha. You want to be able to open it, yeah? Okay, Lamed Gimel. This does not relate to the Machaber that we just learned, but here it is. Shivrei Psila, says the Alter Rebbe. Alter Rebbe, back to the Alter Rebbe, Lamed Gimel, 33. Shivrei Psila she'enam oim d'moed l'adlaka b'ner. The fragments of a wick that are no longer fit to be used to kindle a lamp, they are considered like pebbles and stones. And it's also to move them. Even if they are in the way, or if you have a function that you can think up for them. They're totally muktzah. Basically, when a candle basically finishes burning, there's a little bit of wick left. There's no function for that wick. You're not going to use it again. It's muktzah gomer. It's like a stick or a stone. But a complete wick, even if it was lit last week, or during the week and put out, but it's complete, i.e., it's still usable. He nikras keli. It is considered a keli. But dina kli shamlach l'isser. Now it's a kli whose function is forbidden because you can't light on Shabbos. But nevertheless, you can move it for its place or its function if you have some kind of function.
Just the psila or even the whole thing?
Even just the psila. A candle we'll discuss in a minute. Even just the psila.
On Hanukkah, usually can be used.
Exactly. So those are not muktzah. Now, not if they were lit when Shabbos came in, because then it's basis the davar also.
Before Shabbos, it's Hanukkah.
If when Shabbos came in, it was lit,
Yeah.
then it's going to be high level muktzah. It's not. It's much more than a klish mach l'isser. It's like a basis the davar also. But I'm talking about if it was not lit when Shabbos came in, it was just on the side, then it's a klish mach l'isser, and if it's in the way, or if you have a permissible function, you can move it. Oh, he says it right now. If the wick was burning ben hashmashas of this Shabbos, it has been set aside for the entire Shabbos, as was explained. Now listen carefully. So too, a complete candle of wax or tallow, which is animal fat, basically. They used to make candles out of that. Even it was already lit once, but then it was extinguished and you still have candle left. Nikra kli shemalachta le'isr. It's called a kli shemalachta le'isr. It's called a kli, just like a wick is a kli. Why? Because it has a function. It's a forbidden function, but it has a function. So too a candle, it has a function to light. You're not allowed to light it. Okay, don't light it. But it has a din of a keli. If it's in the way, you can move it out of the way. No, use candle also. If it's used down to the bottom so that it's not used.
No, I mean like, not completely used.
Used it halfway, it's not muktzah. He says here. Afilu nidlek rabachoil. Even if it was lit once during the week, it's still only klish machles. Exactly.
It's not muktzah because it has a function.
It's not completely muktzah, is what I mean. If it would have no function because it was burnt down to the bottom almost and there's nothing left to do with it, then it's considered to have zero function. It's like a stick or stone, it's muktzah gomer. If it has a function, but it's a forbidden function, then we call it a klisha malachta le'isser, and you can move it for its place or it's for or a permissible use if you have one. Exactly. Not if it was lit on the Shabbos. Correct. Then there wouldn't be a basis and it would be completely awesome. Mikan yatsato sahamoin. It's actually more than a basis. I said it's more than a basis. It's muktzah machmas iser shedachoi biyadayim. If you lit it when Shabbos came in, you made it aser with your hands. Understand? You made it aser.
Yeah, because wood is allowed.
I'm saying by lighting it, you're saying this is going to be forbidden for the whole Shabbos. You're not allowed to put it out, so you're not allowed to make it usable in any other way. You're designated to burn for the whole Shabbos. So you made it also with your own hands, and therefore it is totally muktzah. Umikan yotzoto sahamoin. From this came the mistake of the masses. People carry candles for Motzei Shabbos. They get the Havdalah stuff ready. Or they give a goy a candle who wants to light it. Tell him if it's a mistake. You're only allowed to move a kli shemlach l'isser if a Jew has a permissible use for it on Shabbos. For example, a hammer to open up nuts, which is like we said above. But the fact that the goy wants to use it, that's not a permissible function for a Jew. I mean, for him it's mutter because he doesn't have halachas of Shabbos, but that doesn't allow me to hand it to him. Understand? It has to be for permissible item, permissible use for the Jew. Not that a goy has a use for it. He has a use for everything on Shabbos. He doesn't have the halacha. That doesn't help. So the fact is, a candle is only a kli l'shamlach l'isser. It's not muktzah gomer, but you can only move it for a permissible function on Shabbos, not for a use after Shabbos, and not for a go to use.
Having before Shabbos comes, when as much as you have your das that you're not going to use it at all. Like you set aside as muktzah in your mind.
What do you mean? For example, give me an example.
Like a candle. Well, you can't use it.
No, you might have a permissible use for the candle.
You need the mucking.
Either if you need the place, or if you have some permissible use. I don't know. You want to play chess and you're missing a knight. I don't know. Whatever.
So you can there's use for it on Shabbos.
Yeah.
But if you have in your, saying it's like something that.
Why would you have in mind not to use it? It's not expensive. The rule is, unless it's expensive, just because it's a forbidden use item, you don't. It's not considered that you have in mind that you're not going to use it.
It's a scented candle. You want to make a bari minei b'samim.
I don't think so.
Why?
That's a secondary function. The main function is a forbidden function. It has a permissible function that you can do also. We're going to see later, or maybe we.
What's the main function?
Main function is to burn it. What do you mean?
Actually, that's not the case with a scented candle. The main function is for it to release its smell. No. The smell is released after. You should never burn a scented candle for more than 10 minutes, because the heat just heats it up for the scent to be released. And actually, most of the scent is released for a couple of hours after it's gone out. But there's no need to burn it for more than 10 minutes.
It's good to know.
I understand that from perfume makers in the south of France, where they've been making scented candles for many years, and that's the advice that they give with their candles. And there's a shop called L'Occitane, which you might have come across.
It's good to know, but it still is only accessible through burning it. You don't get that smell without burning it. So I think that would still be a malach delis, even though there's no isser in smelling it per se, but you can only access it via burning. So I think.
So you shouldn't pick it up to smell?
I don't think so, no. Oh, no, you can pick it up to smell. It's a kalisha malach delisser. You can pick it up to smell. That's a permissible function, but that doesn't turn it into kalisha malach delisser, is what I'm saying.
Right. So you're only allowed to pick it up for its place or to smell it, but you can't generally move it.
Exactly. Okay, Rabbi Say, it feels like Monday night for some reason, and it feels like we should be learning tomorrow night, but unfortunately, it is Tuesday night. So we'll meet again in Mitzvah Hashem next week.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for that.
When is it? The first is what? The first is Monday or Tuesday? All right. We'll see you
Monday night into Tuesday.
Very good.
Okay. Good night.
Good night.
Sorry.
But we're learning both days next week, right?
I'd like to, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Next week. Yeah. Very good. No nittel.